Hey everybody, it's Julianne from Cary Quilting Company in Cary, North Carolina, and today is Friday, June 17th. Today I have a whole lot of things to share with you as well as answering some of your questions from last week. First up, we have this new sample quilt made by Ina. She used the elements from this winter retreat pattern and made herself a teeny tiny one using the Gingerbread's merrymaking line and part of the panel. So you can see the panel right over there. The panel is also used in this great holiday cards pattern where you have these little postcards with all the pictures that you see from the panel back there. So two great new patterns, holiday cards and winter retreat, using the Gingerbread Merrymaking collection, which we have here in the shop. And we just received in the gingerbread layer cakes from Moda. So that's going to have lots of fabrics, including things we may not have ordered to start with. So if you like this line and like that kind of modern feel, this would be a great selection for you. Next up is Fat Quarter Friday. This is called Muted Florals by Abby and Sussy, two of our college-age staff members. And I really love how quiet and calm and pretty that is. So this is a 6 fat quarter bundle. We have them every Friday. They're always curated by staff members, and they're available on in the shop, online, and curbside for you while supplies last. Next up, we have a whole bunch of new patterns to share, so I'm going to flip through them quickly. Table-tastic 3, the third in a series by Doug Lico, offers more and more and more table runner and table topper designs. And they're all really well written and all really great patterns. So lots of options in Table-tastic 3. We also have Pumpkin Patches, which makes a nice throw size quilt, 60 by 72, if you're looking for something to do with all of our new Halloween fabrics. Then we have Hanging with a Fall Gnome, so cute, 12 by 18 little mini quilt. Maybe if you're new at applique, this would be a great way to dip your toes in with some quick results. We also have, going deeper into the season, Snow in Love, another tiny 7 inches by 18 inches. Could be a fun door hanger or little mini quilt for a friend. And then this is a new Villa Rosa pattern, which we'll talk about these again in a minute, called Crimson Glory. And it's made using 8 fat quarters and some border fabric. So there's another great quilt shown in Christmas colors because we are now obviously getting our Christmas fabrics in. Now, last Friday I asked for questions, quilt questions, and I have a few questions and a bunch of answers for you. The first one was, which is better, bias cut or straight cut binding? So first, let me show you the difference. Straight cut binding is going to go with the fabric. Bias cut binding is going to go against the fabric. So on a bias cut, you actually cut your fabric at a 45-degree angle to the run of the fabric. Bias gives you stretch. Watch this. See how much I can stretch that fabric? Straight gives you hardly any stretch. And this is a batik fabric, so if I had just a standard cotton, it would stretch even more. But look how much I can stretch that on the bias. You can't stretch it on the straight. Now, the reason that's important is if you are making a quilt with round edges, scalloped edges, maybe a Christmas tree skirt, you're going to want bias binding because that stretch is going to help you make those curves in a gentler way that you're not going to have like little wrinkles and puckers all over if you cut your binding on the bias. Another reason bias binding is a good choice is for something like a baby quilt that may be dragged all around the house. The edges of your quilt, the very edges of your binding, are going to get a lot of wear. If you have the edges of your binding with bias cut, all of those threads are now on the diagonal. So if you wear through one thread, you're not going to have a big hole down the edge of your binding. If you have a straight cut binding and you wear through this thread, all of a sudden you have a hole in the edge of your quilt. So bias binding is good for anything with a rounded edge or anything that's going to get a ton of use. Otherwise, straight cut binding I think is a great choice because it's easier to cut, it's easier to assemble. I don't have to do as much math in order to get a straight cut binding figured out. But there are a lot of great bias cut binding calculators online that will let you know what you need to finish your quilt that way as well. So the next question we had was about flange binding. This is what flange binding looks like. And it is a very sneaky trick that is not as hard as it seems. So I actually have a video on flange binding that I'm going to link to this video in the description so you can see how easy it is to make that really fancy looking edge without it being as difficult as you might think. And the last thing I just wanted to say, well, I have a couple more things to say. Kim has a class called Math Class for Quilters, and that's going to help you take a small pattern and turn it into a big pattern. Or say you have borders, but you want bigger borders, but you don't know how much fabric you need. It is a great class for all levels of quilters to figure out how to get a pattern from one size to another size, or how to figure out how much fabric you need before you get here. And of course, we're always happy to help you. That's part of what we like to do for our customers, but it's great for you to know how to do it as well. Now, the last question I got was easy quilt patterns for beginners and an easy quilt pattern to turn into a king size quilt. So again, we're going back to Villa Rosa. This quilt that I just showed you right here is actually Summer Song. And I do have to say, I don't always love their fabric choices because I think it's a little bit hard to see the pattern, but you can actually see the quilt pattern right there. And while neither of those look particularly exciting, when you see it done in real fabric, it's a very, very cute quilt. So you could take that pattern and just continue making more blocks to get a bigger size quilt. And again, Kim's math class can help you figure out how much fabric you would need for that. And then here's just another of our really good sellers from Villa Rosa. Cheryl, look at that one. Merry Trees, it's a little Christmas table runner pattern. And then Liberty. They're all going to be very simple. The entire pattern is right here on the back of the card. And these are just $2 patterns, so easy to grab and figure out. And then, of course, if you want it to be bigger, you're just going to make more blocks. Of course, that works better on something like this than on these guys. But we're always here to help you figure that out as well. So for beginners, I would recommend either the Villa Rosa patterns, or I would recommend a book or pattern that uses pre-cuts, because it's a great way to kind of skip a whole step in the process of cutting to figure out what you're going to be doing next. Sorry, can't talk today. Anyway, I hope that has helped answer some questions. I hope you have a great, great weekend, and we'll see you back here from the shop on Monday. If you have more questions, I'm ready to answer next Friday, so stick them in the comments of the video. Have a great weekend. Bye.